online press conference that will brief you on the upcoming Africities 9 Summit. My name is Victoria Rubadiri, and I'm a broadcast journalist based in Nairobi, Kenya, and I'll be moderating this session over the next hour or so. So just a few housekeeping items before we move forward. This session is being conducted in English. If you require French or Arabic interpretation, kindly use the interpretation feature. It's the small globe in the bottom right of the screen. We'll also have a Q&A session with all of the speakers today if you have any questions. So we request that you hold any questions for after the speeches, and you can use the Q&A feature to field your questions to any of the speakers. We request that you identify yourself with your name and the media house you're representing, and of course the question, or rather the panelists that you'd rather direct your question to. Fantastic. Now, with the housekeeping items out of the way, let me give you a brief as to why we are here. Now, we've heard the buzz phrase Africa Rising some years back, and this still remains true, but also a very real fact is Africa is also growing. Well, today, all projections show that Africa's urban population will be close to 1.2 billion by 2050. And what we'll see is the majority of new urban dwellers will move to cities with populations of less than 500,000. Now, these particular cities are known as intermediary cities and are expected to absorb nearly 2 out of 3 new urbanites. So without a doubt, they are the heart of Africa's urban future. And that is why you, members of the Fourth Estate, are here. We hope this session will give enough insights into the 9th edition of the Africities Summit that will be held next month, that is May. Our distinguished lineup of speakers today will give you more details, and the host city is none other than Kisumu. Here's what you can expect.
Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are. My name is Professor Nyong'o. I'm the governor of Kisumu. Mr. Cabinet Secretary.
Your Excellency, could we watch a video first of Kisumu before you come in?
Okay, fine. I didn't know. You didn't tell me what the order is. Okay, proceed.
Yeah.
Welcome to Kisumu, Kenya's 3rd largest city and the capital of Kisumu County. The lakeside city is a place of passion, pleasure, and fun, where humanity interacts with development, where rural hinterland interacts with the city.
It is very easy to move in and out of Kisumu.
The road network is top-notch. The city is strategically placed. It is the gateway to Western Kenya and the entire Great Lakes region, thanks to Kisumu International Airport, Kisumu Port, and rail transport.
The whole package for Kisumu is ready. We're ready to say we want to be a significant city in Kenya, in Africa, and in the world at large.
And ready indeed for the upcoming Africities conference.
Having a conference like that with about 8,000 to 10,000 people visiting Kisumu is a great economic stimulus.
My administration, Governor, will extend to the county government of Kisumu every support in order for you to be able to showcase Kenya and Kisumu to Africa and the rest of the world.
There is ample accommodation in Kisumu, from high-end hotels and resorts to guest houses and apartments.
We've got several hotels that have opened up into the region. In Kisumu alone, we have 324 hotels. They have different ratings.
There are also so many magical places within and around the city, with those in the neighboring counties within reach. The presence of local and international commercial banks, supermarkets, malls, and open-air markets is a clear indication of a city ripe for business.
The word Kisumu came from the Luo word to trade,
or to do commerce or to borrow.
Hospitals are being upgraded through the Ministry of Health and Public Sanitation.
Kisumu is going to be a buzzing port city, and therefore that means there's a lot of opportunities.
In recreation, Kisumu All Stars Football Club stands out. Not to forget hockey, volleyball, golf, basketball, and handball, among others. Key educational institutions include the University of Nairobi, Maseno University, Kenyatta University, Mount Kenya University, Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, Uzima University, and Kisumu National Polytechnic. Kisumu County in general is rich in agriculture too, with rice farming and sugarcane farming contributing to the county's socio-economic growth and has room for potential investors.
People are positive about investing in Kisumu in all areas. In agriculture, in industry, in manufacturing, maritime transport, housing is a big area of investment. In tourism.
Kisumu, the land of passion, welcomes you to Africities 2022 as we celebrate metropolises of the future.
Fantastic, and we'll be hearing from His Excellency Governor Anyang Nyong'o, the Governor of Kisumu County, shortly. But first, let's set some expectation for Africities Summit 9. Take a look at this video.
Under the high patronage of the President of the Republic of Kenya, the city of Kisumu will host the 9th edition of the Africities Summit from the 17th to the 21st of May 2022. Several thousand participants, including 3,000 local officials, are expected to attend the summit. The theme of this edition is the role of intermediary cities of Africa in implementation of Agenda 2030 of the United Nations and the African Union Agenda 2063. During 5 days, participating thematic as well as political sessions take certified training courses. Prepare your projects to present during the Africities Investment Forum, hire an exhibition stand, make appointments with investors, and negotiate contracts at the Africities Fair, the international business meeting for territorial governments in Africa. Register today on africities.org and join the summit in Kisumu from the 17th all the way to the 21st of May 2022.
All right, and there you have it. This is exciting because it's the first time the summit will highlight what they call the first level of the continent's urban framework, which is made up of around 1,500 intermediary cities in Africa. At this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce our first speaker for this session, His Excellency Professor Anyang Nyong'o, Governor of Kisumu County, who will then invite Cabinet Secretary for Defense, Honorable Eugene Walmalwa, to make his remarks. Governor, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Victoria. My dear friend, Honorable Eugene Walmalwa, the Cabinet Secretary for Defense and Devolution of the Republic of Kenya. My dear friend, the Secretary General of UCLJ Africa, Jean-Pierre Lombassi, distinguished members of the Fourth Estate, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. I will tell you a short background, to give you a short background about Kisumu City. In 1901, the Kenya-Uganda Railway, a project that had commenced at the port city of Mombasa in 1896, snaked into a small market center, then known as Kisumu, a place where people exchanged goods. This was 3 years after the British colonialists had identified the center as an alternative railway terminus and port for the Uganda Railway to replace Port Victoria for its ideal location on the shores of Lake Victoria at a cusp of the Vietnam Gulf. The 930 kilometers rail was to open up East Africa to facilitate trade and movement for the colonialists. The communities living along the lake basin had been converging at the market center to exchange goods and services for many years, oblivious of the potential the center harbored for the future. Fishing, farming, and trading stood out of the backbone of the economy of the center. And on the 20th December 1901, the history of the center would change forever when Mrs. Florence Preston, the wife of Ronald Preston, the chief engineer of the railway project, was given the enviable honor of hammering the final bolt on the railway sleeper, signaling the end of the railway project, and with it, the naming of the harbor, Port Florence, from Kisumu, which the center had been famous for. In the year 1903, 2 years after its renaming to Port Florence, the township reverted to its old name, Kisumu, becoming a leading East African center for commerce, administration, and military installation by the end of 1940. The railway, a great infrastructural achievement, brought to an end the era of large and costly caravans of porters carrying loads on their heads from Mombasa to Uganda, and began the true renaissance of Kisumu as a city of the future. Kisumu city holds the enviable history of hosting the first airport in East and Central Africa during the era of amphibian planes, used by the British as a link between Europe and South Africa for passenger and mail services from Southampton to Cape Town. Being tolerant and accommodative in the original residence of Kisumu, the Luos accommodated the cultural, religious, and real diversity in terms of races, which saw them embrace the British and the Indians. And the city remains a hotbed of investment for Asian generations who have chosen to stay around after independence. Indeed, Kisumu has a notorious name of being called the second Mumbai in Africa. Kisumu City was in 2006 designated Kisumu City was in 2002. Designated the first UN Millennium City of the world. And so what started as a vision by the British has now grown to an intermediary city, the third largest city in Kenya, which will host the world for the first time, the 9th edition of the Africities Summit from the 17th to 21st of May in 2022, in a couple of weeks' time. And at this critical time, we'll focus on the growth of urbanization, not just in Kenya, but in Africa as a whole. The phenomenon of the trends of urbanization is one that presents both challenges and opportunities. With 7 billion people, or 2/3 of the world population, projected to live in urban areas by 2050, the place of the intermediary cities could be clearer. It should not be lost on us that 90% of this rapid urbanization will be taking place in Africa and Asia. While these trends in population growth in intermediary cities seem scary and challenging, they also present opportunities and solutions to address emerging global challenges. Climate change and emerging health challenges such as COVID-19 pandemic have only accelerated awareness creation at the policy decision tables on the need to transform intermediary cities through well thought out strategies, policies, and ideas to accelerate implementation of the Special Development Goals, SDGs, and the Africa Economic Blueprint. The coming Africities Summit is very special, as it will be the very first time the summit is held in an intermediary city in the franchise of 20-year-plus journey. At a time when the conversation will be centered on growth and management of intermediary cities, their service deliverables forming the bulk of responsibilities of decentralized governments. The summit theme, the role of intermediary cities in the implementation of the UN Agenda 2030 and the AU Agenda 2063, embodies the spirit of functions of decentralized governments, such as food security, safe and clean environments, livable neighborhoods, and affordable shelter. Therefore, as territorial governments and cities of Africa converge in Kisumu for this premier Pan-African event, the conversation should be about how subnational governments can leverage on their strength, opportunities, and numbers, working in close collaboration to contribute to the implementation of the SDGs, especially in this year of action and the realization of the AU vision of the Africa we want going into the next century. Kisumu, having been captured in the Kenyan government economic blueprint, Vision 2030, which identified the city for the development of a special economic zone, is ready and positioned to play this role as a leading destination for investment and trade in Kenya. Sitting on the Gulf of Lake Victoria and aptly positioned as the gateway to the 400 million market of East Africa and the Great Lakes region, Kisumu is ready for the uptake of investment in the areas of blue economy and maritime transport, agriculture, agribusiness and agro-processing, housing, film industry, manufacturing, textile production.
Hello, David. I'm cut off. Yeah. The Arabic channel is cut off. Could you accept me again as?
What channel is cut off?
Arabic. Apparently Arabic is cut off. I don't know what.
Your Excellency, you may proceed.
We presume we proceed. Sitting on the Gulf of Lake Victoria and aptly positioned as the gateway to the 400 million market of East Africa and the region, Kisumu is ready for the uptake of investment in the areas of blue economy and maritime transport, aquaculture, agribusiness and agro-processing, housing, film industry, manufacturing, textile production, tourism and hospitality development, renewable and green energy, mining, sports and talent development, not to mention education, financial services, and the digital space. It is therefore my pleasure to invite Africa and the whole world to Kisumu, the home of real passion and pleasure, as we commence the journey to Africa's renaissance. Welcome to Kisumu. The future awaits you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Governor. A kind request, if you may invite the Cabinet Secretary for Defense, Waziri Honorable Eugene Walmalwa, to make his remarks. Thank you.
May I now take this opportunity to invite my dear friend and my colleague, the Honorable Eugene Walmalwa, Minister for Defense in Kenya, as well as Minister for Devolution and Asset Areas. Honorable Walmalwa, welcome.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you, Victoria, very able moderator, and colleagues who are listening in to this. May I take this opportunity to thank you for availing this platform for us to share about the 9th edition of Africities that will be hosted in Kisumu, Kenya, from the 17th of next month. And we are looking forward to hosting all of you. I know it is something that has taken long, and we want to thank our colleagues who have been very patient in extending time for us to be ready for this very important occasion. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we were not able to hold it earlier as scheduled, but we have been able to put in everything to be ready. And as we speak now, I can confirm that we are ready to host you. Kisumu awaits you, Kenya awaits you. And we are really honored as a country to be given a second opportunity to host these Africities. We last hosted these in 2006, and we were able to do it in Nairobi, our capital city. But this is the first time we're taking this event out of the capital. And we are looking forward to living up to the expectations of all those who are coming to witness the first intermediary city in Africa to host this event. We are truly honored, but we also feel the weight of the responsibility given to us by all our African brothers and sisters and the world. It's a big test, and we believe we are prepared for it. The scriptures say, to whom much is given, much is expected. And I believe what we are putting with the county government of Kisumu under the very able leadership of Governor Nyong'o will not disappoint you. So we are prepared, and we are looking forward to not just showcasing Kisumu, but also we want to showcase the potential that intermediary cities hold in our future as a country, as a continent, because the experts are telling us in another 20 or so years, the population of Africa will be largely in these urban areas, in intermediary cities. As Victoria said before, with a population of 1.2 billion by 2050, we expect over 50 or 60% of that population. For this, we must grow these cities as smart cities, resilient cities that can withstand pandemics, that can come out stronger and build better out of a pandemic like the one we witnessed, the COVID-19. And this is where we are going. But as a country also, it will give us a great opportunity to share experiences with our African brothers and sisters and the world in a very difficult and exciting experiment at the same time that as a country we undertook in 2010 with our new constitution, where we changed our system of governance from the centralized system to a decentralized system of government. And we now have a devolved system of government in our country. We've been able to do this in a record 10 years. We've been able to form 47 county governments that are up and running. And Kisumu county government is one of those success stories that we'll be sharing with you to see how we can devolve resources, power, and decision-making from the center to the subnational level. And at the same time, allow the people to fully participate in deciding their priorities according to their needs in their localities. So this will be a great platform for us to showcase devolution. And as the Minister for Devolution, I'm really looking forward to this and sharing with our brothers and sisters. So I welcome you, and we look forward to engaging with you and building partnerships into the future. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Waziri, for your remarks. And indeed, it is an exciting time for Kenya and Kisumu at large. Our next speaker is a key convener of the Africities Summit, Monsieur Jean-Pierre Lombasi. He's the Secretary General for the United Cities and Local Governments of Africa. Monsieur Pierre, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Director of this conversation. I am delighted that this press conference launching the Kisumu kickoff is finally taking place. Remember, it is at the 8th edition of the Efficiencies Summit held in Marrakesh, Morocco, that in November 2018, the Community of African National and Subnational Governments decided that the next summit will be held in the city of Kisumu, hosted by the county government of Kisumu, backed by the Council of Governors of Kenya and the government of Kenya. The date that was chosen then was November 16th to 20th, 2021. But due to the COVID pandemic, this date has to be pushed back to 17 to 21 of May 2022. The summit is taking place in the midst of a health crisis, but also of the already felt climate crisis, and now the uprising geopolitical crisis. This changes the environment in which the summit will be held. This unique and critical environment compels Africa to take decisive steps in the definition of our own pathway to sustainable development. In fact, we are faced with contradictory trends. In 2015, with the adoption of the Agenda 2030 of the Sustainable Development Goals of universal and programmatic nature, and the conclusion of the Paris Agreement to address altogether the global warming and the consequences of climate change, we thought that the world was entering a new era of solidarity and cooperation in a landscape characterized by the triumph of globalized economy. Just to discover during the COVID-19 pandemic that confronted with a serious crisis, a serious health crisis, the reflex of selfishness will take the lead in all countries and expose the weaknesses of African countries that are over-reliant, over-dependent on their connection to the world market to respond to even basic needs of their populations. What we learn from the COVID are the following. Lesson number one, Africa should urgently improve her self-reliance, at least for the basic needs of its population. Lesson number two, Africa should take seriously the climate crisis and anticipate the way to address it, taking into account Africa's realities. Lesson number three, the rise of new political concern confirmed the rightness of the founding father of the Organization of African Unity to prioritize the integration and unity of Africa as confirmed by Agenda 2063 of the Africa we want. Lesson number four, there is need for Africa to rethink its development pathway in order to ground this development in the realities of Africa first. We think that the rethinking of the Africa's journey to sustainable human development and unity and integration should start from its territory, the intermediary cities being the strategic layer of African human settlement landscape that best embody these Africa's realities. So the summit in Kisumu is a milestone in the journey to African Renaissance. And we wanted this rebirth of the new thinking of the African Renaissance to be all-inclusive. And this is why in Kisumu, we invited all the stakeholders to come and reflect with us, including the diaspora, who are being recognized as the sixth region of Africa, but who are not so much included in this kind of reflection when we design the future of our continent. And we also wanted that the African Union is deeply connected with the African realities through their participation at the Africities Summit, where they will be meeting the people that manage daily the lives of African people. I want to give you a brief outlook of the Africities architecture. Can you put it on the screen, please? So the general architecture. Oh, what is happening? Africities spans in 5 days. 5 days from Tuesday, 17th of May to Saturday, 21st of May. This is the architecture that we have. So we have 3 days that are devoted to understanding the theme of the summit, delineating this theme into thematic sessions, defining local policies and strategies that will address the theme of the summit, and having interaction with any partner that want to work with local government in Africa. These are what we call the 3 first day of the summit. And these 3 first day of the summit, they have the obligation to issue recommendations to the national governments, to the local governments, and to the development partners. This is mandatory. Then they can also issue recommendation to the African Union, to the regional economic communities, and to UCLG Africa. But this is optional. The 2 last days are the political segment of the Africities Summit. And at this political segment, you will have a meeting of ministers, a meeting of mayors and leaders of local authorities, a meeting of regional economic communities, a meeting of development partners. And what is new in the case of Kisumu is that we'll bring up a conversation between former African head of states and young locally elected official of Africa. And you see, the whole week we'll have open sessions, meaning sessions that people propose to the local governments. On the 21st, we'll have a tripartite dialogue meeting between ministers, mayors, and development partners. So this is the side of the conference. Now, during these conferences, we have specific days. Can I have the specific days? These specific days, oh, can you put the specific days, please? These specific days are about the issues that the local government of Africa want to put as their priority concern. Sorry, someone is talking. Can you close your mic while you are not talking, please? So on the 17th, we will have a climate day and a diaspora day. On the 18th, a culture day, a digital day, and the Africities Trade and Investment Forum. On the 19th, Women Day, Youth Day, and Urban Development Day. And as I told you, the 2 last days, 20th and 21st, the political segment. Now, beside the conferences, we will have an exhibition, what we call a fair. And we are happy to say that is nearly, we are progressing very well in hosting private companies, institutions in the exhibition. And this is a place also where we will be organizing B2B meetings and also workshop to acquaint people with the new tools and the new method that address the mandates of the local governments, and in particular, the intermediary cities. So I just want to confirm this invitation to come to Kisumu to start a new journey for African Renaissance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monsieur Jean-Pierre, for your remarks and indeed setting the stage. Taking a look at some of the comments in the chat section, members of the press joining us from Uganda, Kenya, Nigeria, Burkina Faso, Ghana, Senegal, South Sudan. Thank you so much. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll be taking questions for our speakers. So far, I see one from Ezat Ibrahim Yusuf. And again, please direct them to the Q&A feature. Q&A feature, if you leave them in the chat, they run the risk of getting lost there. So if you have any questions, please direct them to the Q&A feature. So Ezat, you ask, the high density of both population and infrastructure in urbanized areas make several implications for the future of intermediary cities. What is the African city's vision for the global repercussions of COVID-19 and its fallout? And you are the editor-in-chief from Al-Ahram Weekly. Thank you so much for your question in Egypt. I believe we can direct that to Monsieur Jean-Pierre and Governor Nyong'o to chime in as well. But we'll begin with Monsieur Jean-Pierre.
Well, first of all, it is important that we accept that Africa is urbanizing. And most of our policies were denying this trend. And remember, everybody was saying, no, let's stop rural-urban migration. We didn't, and we can't. What we can, however, is to try and put up a continuum of human settlements that are conducive to a sustainable development. In this way, we should count on intermediary cities to be the buffers in this trend towards from rural to big cities, and to be the places where we internalize our economies. Remember, intermediary cities are in direct link with the rural areas. And this is where we can experiment new way of relations between the urban population and the rural population. And we need really to consider that the most important growing layer of urban areas are intermediary cities. So address the issues at the intermediary cities, and we'll have chances to address them for the whole country and the whole continent.
Thank you very much, Jean-Pierre. I think that COVID taught us one thing, that planning for the use of the urban space is important. You know, for a long time, we've been crying, oh, we have slums, there are no infrastructure there, there is no water there, and that there's difference between living areas, upper class areas, lower class areas, and all that. But COVID told us one thing: everybody needs to be accessed in urban centers in order for oxygen or vaccines to reach them, health workers. Secondly, there is something called basic needs of all human beings, which COVID proved was true beyond measure. A rich man could lack a space in a hospital and die, so could a poor man. Therefore, the philosophy and politics and economics of leaving nobody behind in theories and concepts and ideologies of development is vital, and COVID proved it. And therefore, I think beginning today with intermediary cities, which have all these problems that cities have, high densities, lack of infrastructure, poor healthcare, sometimes difficult access to food, that we need to deal with this. These are the basic of human beings, notwithstanding class differences, and that the African city of the future, beginning to be planned for today, must indeed address these issues and put them in practice in all government policies and practices in our cities in Africa.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Governor. Another question here for you, Governor Nyong'o. And they are asking, how does the city of Kisumu, and really the county of Kisumu, assume its position as an intermediary city to limit the exodus of populations to Nairobi?
Well, as Jean-Pierre said, you cannot stop people from moving from rural areas to urban areas because they're free citizens. They might need to look for work where they think they can get it. And when they get it, the work is not there. They need to find shelter somewhere, usually with relatives. When they fail to do that, you find them on the streets. And these are the realities of Africa, no matter where. So Kisumu as an intermediary city, what we have been doing really to look forward to dealing with those issues today and tomorrow is first of all to have a very thoroughly done geophysical and spatial plan for the city, which means that we know what the city looks like today. We know who is doing what where, and we know what is wrong with the present system of organizing the city. And therefore we come with a better plan from now on and correct the mistakes of today so that we don't have to deal with them tomorrow. Which means therefore that in our budget, we locate substantial sums of money for urban development, not just in Kisumu, but in outlying markets. We converted or adopted about 5 so-called markets into towns so that they can now be planned anew and not be allowed to spontaneous growth that has been there before, because they're already becoming towns without a plan for them as such. So if you ask me what we're doing about these problems, yes, we're trying to put our money where our mouth is.
Great. One more question here. We have time for 2 more, but this is going to Secretary General Mbasi. And they refer to your speech where you mentioned Africa becoming autonomous and capable of providing solutions for development and fight against climate change. And so their question is, what will be the role of local authorities and what will be the role of the national governments in tackling these issues?
First of all, we should recognize that in the climate action, the priority for Africa is adaptation. Remember, we just mourn people that died in Durban from flood. You remember what happened in Mozambique. So adaptation to climate change is one of our priorities in Africa. And adaptation happens at the level of territories, at the level of local authorities. Most of the time, when this happens, we have the national government coming in, and this is right. But then they come for a while, and people that will treat the matter for the long run are those who are living with the people on the ground. So we are calling for a cooperative governance between the national and the local governments, so that we address, following the subsidiarity principle, we address the same issues with the two angles. Remember, the public authorities have now two faces, a national face and a local face. And these faces should not be opposed. They are all the government. And they should work hand in hand. Otherwise, if the local government fail, the national government is failing as well, because the citizen will not differentiate what is the fault of local government and what is the fault of national government. And this is why we at the UCLG Africa, we are calling for a cooperative governance that create trust, build trust between the public authorities and the local and the population.
Thank you, Secretary General. And final question here from Frank Oyugi, and you ask this to the governor. In light of the influx of people to a tune of 7 billion in the years to come, I am sure if you break down the demographics, most of them are young people. What is the employment opportunities strategies, aware of the unemployment challenges that Africa continues to grapple with, so we can scale down on crime? So opportunities when it comes to employment to at least serve the growing youth population. And that question goes to Governor Nyong'o.
Well, Victoria, first of all, we have to liberate our minds from thinking about employment just in terms of two sectors of the economy, agriculture and manufacturing or industry. As you know, there are many other sectors of the economy which are emerging in this technological age, which are very attractive to young people. For example, the ICT area. I know for certain that it has been proven that ICT is a much easier area for young people to learn to get into, because it doesn't really quite often require having so many certificates before you get a job. You just get into it, train, and you use it. And we have proven it in Kisumu, in our Kisumu Center for Business Incubation and Innovation, where ICT is open to young people. They come, they don't get much training, they get on the job straight, and they get outsourced job from blue chip companies like adding bills for microphone, for Safaricom, and a young man can earn 5,000 shillings in 3 hours. And it's a practical thing we have seen. So we must think of diverse ways of creating jobs. The other one is to think of agriculture in a different way. You know, we always think of agriculture as a labor-intensive sector of the economy. Agriculture can be even better than that, mechanized agriculture, where agro-processing comes in as a huge area for employment, especially when we begin producing for export in Africa. We have not really been exporting all kinds of our agricultural products. We have relied on the major cash crops, as it were. But fruits and vegetables and grass and trees and so on have proven in Kenya to be things that can be exported, which are the consumed labor of young people, and give them much better wages, because these are high value crops. For example, if you are growing spices, these are low volume, high value crops, labor intensive, which can employ a lot of people. And a lot of farmers in Kenya have started doing that. In Kisumu, we encourage it, because we should not think of employing this huge population just by sticking to the traditional concept of the economy between industry and agriculture, and think of cash crops and industrial products as such. No, the economies of the world have really opened up in many ways that Africa must take advantage of.
Great. Time for one last question. And I'm seeing the Q&A tab is getting very active, but we are limited on time. But let me direct this to the Secretary General Mbasi. And this is from Getachew. And they ask, what needs to be done to prepare intermediary cities to be able to accommodate the 1.2 billion population in urban areas? And when we talk about intermediary cities, do we have in mind the cities that are already there, or would we have to form new cities in light of the fact that many African cities are few and far between?
I think this is a very interesting question because the OECD committed a study, and this study was conducted by a group called Africities. And the Africities studies tells us that the intermediary cities, many intermediary cities that will be having in the 20 years to come do not exist yet. And we'll see also the change of many small towns that will be becoming intermediary cities. What does it mean? It means that we need to plan. Because if we fail to plan, we are planning to fail. It is important that the setbacks that we see, the deadlocks that we see in equipment, infrastructure, in intermediary cities, be addressed drastically. If we are serious with internalizing our economies, we should be serious with building strong intermediary cities. Remember, they are the one organizing local economies and national economies, while the big cities are connected to the world economy. So the more we have strong intermediary cities, the more we are self-reliant and on our development. So it is critical that and this is why we put the spotlight on intermediary cities. And here also, I'm calling on the highest leaders of our continent conference addressed the theme of the role of cities and territories in the structural transformation of this continent. And we know that Africa will be majority urban in 2030. So it is very critical that this spotlight that we put in Kisumu on intermediary city is taken very seriously at all levels, including at the Pan-African level.
Secretary Mbasi, thank you so much for your insights and your responses. That is all the time we have. I feel terrible because we're not able to cover all of the questions and queries coming in, but a big, big thank you to His Excellency, Professor Anyang Nyong'o, Governor of Kisumu County. Thank you as well to the Cabinet Secretary for Defense, Honorable Eugene Walmalwa, and of course, Monsieur Jean-Pierre Elong Mbasi, Secretary General for United Cities and Local Governments of Africa. I hope this was an interactive and informative session that gets you thinking and excited about Africities Summit 9. And the team from Apple Group will be sending over a press release, more information and material that you need to prepare for the summit in May. And hopefully we will see you in Kisumu. Thank you so much for your time. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Bye, Victoria.
Bye.
Thank you, Prof. Goodbye.
Bye.
No, this is brand